Hello, welcome back to FPL Mate. It is, well, it's still game week 32. It's still game week 32, to be honest. Newcastle versus Manchester United has just finished. More pain for Manchester United. More pain for Spurs as well. More pain for Chelsea. Been a lot of pain today. If you support any of those clubs, which I know a lot of you guys do. So commiserations there. I think a lot of teams may be focusing on Europe at this stage of the season, but also a lot of teams focusing on Europe for next season as well. And certainly a few teams have stepped up to the plate, including Newcastle and Aston Villa, who now look pretty good for that Champions League football, going quite well. FPL. FPL, on the other hand, how are we feeling? It looks like in the chat, a few people have had some good scores. I wonder how that has been the case. Maybe some bench boosters, maybe some triple captainers, maybe some assistant managerers in the chat as well. But I think for those not using a chip this week, it has been a case of damage limitation. That's certainly been the case for me. Just trying to not get too big of a red arrow ahead of next game week, which is going to be bench boost for me personally. But anyway, guys, how are we feeling? Is anyone in FPL pain? It seems like to be fair, we knew game week 32 would cause some pain. We really knew that would be the case. We kind of thought the rotation that is going to happen right now. We expected Saka to be rotated. We expected, maybe some of the Aston Villa guys to be rotated. Although, in fairness, a lot of the Aston Villa players ended up playing that we didn't think they would, maybe. I know some people, by the way, I have seen this. I might as well just get this out of the way now. I know a lot of people have been a little bit disappointed in kind of maybe content creators suggesting that there might be some benchings for the likes of Rodgers or Rashford, maybe, etc., etc. But I do just want to clarify that, a lot of people, who were, well, certainly me, I can't really speak for anyone else, but it was just a case of repeating what journalists and Aston Villa fans were saying for their predicted lineups, rather than, saying, oh, this is definitely what's going to happen or anything like that. So it's been a really tricky one. And I think, even Aston Villa fans are fully admitting right now that their squad is so deep, it is just impossible to predict the lineup each week. So maybe Emery is the new Pep Guardiola, where it's just impossible to predict who's going to play each week. So pick who you think is a good player and hope for the best. But that said, in game week 32, the 3 goal scorers for Aston Villa were the 3 players, well, 3 of the players who didn't start the game. All 3 of the goals were scored by substitutes in game week 32 for Aston Villa. So actually, picking the players starting the game maybe was not the play. The play was to pick players who were not starting the game, which is kind of crazy. But, FPL football is a crazy game, and football is always full of unpredictable stuff, and I think that has been once again shown this game week. So if we kind of have a look at the top scorers for this week, it is quite the list. David Moyes, if you had him assistant manager, which I don't think very many people did. He was the top scorer of the week so far, 19 points for him. Aaron Ramsdale with 2 penalty saves. Crazy, I know. 1.1 selected. He was a 16-point man. Joao Pedro, in fairness, I know a few of you guys do have Joao Pedro, and it seems like most of the people with the high scores this game week are Joao Pedro owners. So fair enough if you had him. Then we've got like De Bruyne, Harvey Barnes in here. You've got like sort of Ait Nouri with his goal and assist. And then we've got Partey, Decore, Ben Johnson. Is that his name? Ben Johnson. And Ciso, McKenna, Van Nistelrooy, Kovacic. We've got some real random names. Mavididi, O'Reilly. These are players that nobody has in their FPL team. Riley, 8-pointer, 0.1% selected. Mavididi, 0.3. The managers, Van Nistelrooy, McKenna, so low. And Ciso, 0.1. Johnson, 1.7. The people who do own Johnson probably have him on their bench. Decore, 0.3% selected. Partey, 0.7% selected. Kovacic, 1.2. It is crazy out here. The kind of players that scored a lot of points. Where's Salah in this list? Where is, even Saka? I know he didn't start, but you know, he's another player we expect to score a lot of points. Where is Marmoush? Fair enough. Got the goal, got 1 bonus points, but where is he up here as well? Where is Isak? People triple captaining Alexander Isak. It was just a week of the most random players. Not just random players, admittedly, but like a lot of the players with the big scores this week have been just the most random players. Now, fair enough, there are a few players that, you know, you guys are picking. We've got the likes of Joao Pedro in there. Maybe some of you guys have Nori. Maybe some of you took a punt on Harvey Barnes, for example, as well. And Eddie Howe, not too bad. 10-pointer for him, assistant manager as well. So there were some, maybe Wissa. Do people play Wissa against Arsenal, though? Probably not, to be honest, right? Probably not. So it's wild out here, guys. It's the Wild West. And I have to admit, my point total is reflecting how crazy it was. Returns for Salah and Marmoush. That's, well, and Sarr. That's it for me. And Isak, of course, captain. But all to play for in that Newcastle Palace game. This is the game to hopefully save us. And in fairness, last game week it was the same situation. It was the Monday game for Newcastle that really pulled a lot of people out of a lot of trouble last week, with the likes of Murphy and Livramento really doing some good work in the final game of game week 31. So maybe game week 32 is going to be a similar situation where we do finally see some decent scores. No real plan of what to talk about today other than bench boost and triple captain potentially, if you are thinking about that as well. And maybe one little eye ahead to game week 34, which is going to be the free hit week for a lot of people, myself included. So I know that's a little bit ahead, but I think it's nice to think about it, look at some of the options, players to keep an eye on, etc., etc. I think that will be kind of a good kind of idea. But I'm happy for you guys to direct the conversation as well with whatever you guys want to say in the chat. Now, one thing I did want to make sure 100% I mentioned today was about Mateta, because I know a lot of you guys have Mateta in your team. A lot of people worried he was substituted, of course, at half time for Palace up against who did Palace even play? It seems so long ago now. Man City, of course it was. It was the huge, big 7-goal thriller. Mateta subbed at halftime for tactical reasons. Obviously, the tactics maybe didn't pay off so much in the second half for Crystal Palace. So I think Mateta is fine for the second game of the game week against Newcastle. So some confidence can be had there. And of course, we'll be looking at the second double game week for Crystal Palace in game week 33, where again we do expect Mateta to be playing in both of those games. A few people asking about free hits in game week 33. Yeah, so I am going to, well, I've already started making a video for a game week 33 free hit. So that is going to be out tomorrow. So I don't really want to go over a free hit draft today, but we will, of course, talk about some players, and yeah, the full video will come out tomorrow, so go check that one out if you want to. Here for FPL says, will this be rewatchable? Not able to view live today? Yes, all of the streams we do on the channel go up as video on demand after, for sure. Ansh says, Livramento to Bradley next week. He's in the wildcard draft I've made, I have to admit, but he is on the bench on it. But yeah, Connor Bradley looks really, really good. One thing to note about Bradley, though, before going for him, is the fixtures after Leicester, not so hot. Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Palace. There's no easy games there, and you would expect Liverpool to concede in most of these games, I'm going to say. I wouldn't be surprised to see Liverpool with no clean sheets after Leicester, but maybe if you're on a wild card in game week 34 and you've already got your double game week players ready to go, there's definitely an argument to go for Bradley as a kind of a 1 week punt potentially. Or you could just, you know, if you're bench boosting now, you can just leave him on your bench for all subsequent game weeks. You can maybe play him against Spurs, maybe Brighton, maybe Palace at the end of the season as well. Small concern about Trent being back before the end of the season. So just to put that one out there. The time to buy Bradley was probably last game week, to be honest. Game week 30, Game week 32. That way you could have got 2 games out of him at least, West Ham and Leicester. So yeah, big call on Bradley. Looked like a really nice differential, and congrats to everyone who did go for him. Is it too late if you're looking for a rest of the season option? Maybe not. Maybe not. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It is a bit of a 1 week pump, but if you're playing a bench boost and you need an extra bench player, then it is definitely a possibility as well. So let's talk about bench boost. I'm going to go on the pick team page. My bench boost is active, hence the title of the stream. And this is what I'm looking like right now. I have 2 free transfers. I think I'm going to, well, the plan was always to do Trippier to Gvardiol. That was always the plan. In terms of that second transfer, I'm hoping to roll it, but I'm not 100% sure if I want to do that or not, because I think I want to save some transfers for a little bit later on in the season. So let's leave that on screen for you guys for a second, and we'll can we get a new? I can't remember where I put my. Is it on my Twitter? There should be might be on my Twitter, my fixture calendar. Let's see if we can find it, because I want to have a look at that fixture calendar. Where are you? This one, is this the most up-to-date one? Let's have a look. Does this look right? Yeah, I think that looks right. So this is what we're potentially dealing with between now and the end of the season. I want to open image in new tab. There we go. So this is what we're looking at. And I think transfers are going to be very, very valuable. And I know people will be like, yeah, use that transfers, use every transfer you have, maximize game week 33. But I think if you're looking at defenders, and that's what I'm looking at, if you're looking at like midfielders just to kind of swap around, if you've got like a Murphy right now, you're probably going to want to spend a transfer there. If you've got Palmer and you want to move to Saka, I think that's pretty sensible as well. Isak to Watkins, I think, is a little bit risky, to be honest. But as for any of the defenders, and I know a lot of people will be looking to transfer out like Burns and Trippiers and this, that, and the other. Maybe you've got some other like single game week defenders this week that you want to trade out. Even for a bench boost, I don't know if it's worth it. Like, burn for 1 game, or, I mean, what are your other options going to be? If it's an Arsenal defender, fair enough. If it's a Man City defender, fair enough. But if it's another Palace defender, if it's another Aston Villa defender, or indeed goalkeeper, by the way, I just don't know if it's going to be worth making a transfer when transfers are going to be so valuable. I really can see, with the way the fixtures are looking like towards the end of the season, there is a high chance that no matter who you are, you will take a hit between now and the end of the season. When we look at that transition between game week 36 and game week 37. Because if we do get double game week 36, it will be the same teams doubling in game week 36 who then blank in game week 37. So you're going to have to make another quick transition between one set of players and another, similar to what we did with what we're doing with game week 33 and game week 34. But this time you won't have the wild card, you won't have the free hit to help you out. So you're going to have to, well, for most people, you're going to have to rely on transfers to navigate this period. And if, Man City beats Forest in the FA Cup semi-final, they could have a double here, Southampton and Bournemouth. Really, really nice. But blank in game week 37, Fulham away in game week 38, you're probably going to need some transfers to maybe remove those exact Man City players that you have in game week 36, ready for 37. Some of these other teams that maybe you guys are not loaded up on, like Forest, for example, they could have a double if they beat Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. Spurs, West Ham, Wolves, maybe. You guys are not going to have players from these teams, and they all have a chance of a double game week. Palace and Aston Villa are there as well, but only one of these 2 teams, one of Palace or Aston Villa, will have a double in 36 and blank in 37. So you might actually need to sell some of them to buy the other, but then reverse it again in game week 37. So what I'm saying is transfers are going to be crazy by the end of the season, and we're not going to get confirmation on this until after game week 34. So it's going to be between game week 34 and game week 35. We'll have the confirmation on this one. So it's going to be it's going to be a really tricky period to navigate, and every transfer is going to be valuable. People will be taking a hit, even if you're saving transfers, unless you've got chips to use in 36 and 37. I think you're probably going to be taking hits there as well. So it is really tough. It is really tough. Mark Kagan says, bench boost 33, 3 free transfers, sell Dina for concert or save the transfer. I'd honestly probably save the transfer. I think Dina probably plays one of those 2 games. I think for Aston Villa against Newcastle and Man City, your chances of a clean sheet are fairly low anyway. Concert could very, very easily get 2 1-pointers in game week 33 for a 2-point total. That is not out of the question. So if Dina gets a sub appearance in one and maybe gets a 1-pointer in the other, it's the same outcome, right? So for me, Dina to concert, Dina to anyone is not worth a transfer. Like we kind of mentioned earlier in the stream, Aston Villa are so difficult to predict right now that whatever you have, you keep. Whatever you are thinking about buying, just buy the players you think are best. And just kind of hope for the best here, because it's not the best double game week for Aston Villa. And actually, when we look at these double game week fixtures, Arsenal's looks good. Crystal Palace looks good against Bournemouth, maybe not so much against Arsenal. Man City's looks pretty decent against Everton and Aston Villa, but maybe not amazing, but pretty decent. Aston Villa have the worst of the double game weeks here and are the most rotation risk players. So bringing more in, unless it's like a Morgan Rogers or maybe a Rashford or maybe a Watkins, these high upside players who can go off, do something crazy in any given game. Unless you're going for someone like that, it's really difficult to, say that any Aston Villa transfers will be successful. Everyone is risky, particularly with these fixtures, particularly with the rotation risk. So, no, I don't think I would sell Dina for Konsa. I don't think I would bring in an Aston Villa defender this week. If you have some already, brilliant, keep them. If you don't, I don't think I would be rushing them in. Whatever you have now, even if you've got like a Brighton defender or against Brentford, or a Forest defender against Spurs, I would probably just keep them. Newcastle defender against Aston Villa, I'd probably rather keep them than make a switch to an Aston Villa defender, because what you run the risk of is pretty much the same as what we saw with Crystal Palace in game week 32. We got Daniel Munoz on 0 points. You've got Henderson on 1 point. Obviously, the other defenders perhaps even worse. So are you in this double game week for Aston Villa? Are defenders essential? No, definitely not essential. Sure, they're nice to have. 2 fixtures gives you twice the chance of something crazy happening. An unexpected clean sheet, an unexpected goal from a defender, maybe, and that's great. But I don't think I'd go out of my way. I don't think I'd go out of my way for it. Morg Boy says, what do you think about free hit game week 34 or save for 36? Look, if you can field 11 or even 10 players in game week 34 without a free hit, then fine. But I think for a lot of people, they're gonna probably have only like 5 or 6 players for game week 34. But the free hit game week 36 or indeed game week 37 is still very much on the cards. Very much indeed. Best assistant manager for game week 33. The risky bet is Crystal Palace, although Crystal Palace aren't eligible for kind of extra points against Bournemouth now, are they? Arsenal is tough, but they could maybe get something out of that game, maybe, but that would be pretty risky. The safe choice is probably Arsenal, right? There's not really game week 33. There's not really any table bonus opportunities here. But, Arsenal is probably safe. Probably the safest bet for assistant manager for game week 33. Anyone else got any suggestions? Because I can't really say much more than that. Aït-Nouri on the bench this week. Keep him for 33 against Man United, or get Dino or Conser him. You keep Aït-Nouri. You absolutely keep Aït-Nouri. You've got a chance of a double game week for him later on. If you're not on free hit in game week 34, he's going to be great for that as well. He's probably going to be in my almost certainly going to be in my game week 34 free hit team. Almost certainly. What else have we got here? Switch Savinho? No. Any double game week player you have, you keep at this point, unless they're injured. And I can't really think who is actually going to be unavailable out of the double game week players. I mean, Foden, potentially you sell. Foden is a bit of an issue right now. You could maybe think about moving him to Saka, perhaps, if you don't have Saka already. But if you have Palmer, maybe you're thinking about moving Palmer to Saka as well. Foden to someone like Rodgers is obviously going to be a very popular move as well. So yeah, these attackers, I'd be more flexible with the transfers. What about Murphy to Roberts? Who is Roberts? Rodgers, maybe? Rodgers works, yeah. Murphy to Rodgers. Half of the FPL universe will be moving Murphy to Rodgers this week. It's a slam dunk transfer. If you've got Murphy, you need a similarly priced midfielder. Rodgers is just there ready for the taking. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have been planning that kind of move anyway. Anyone else in the chat making that exact move? Murphy to Rodgers? Anyone going any? Is anyone taking a punt on Rashford or Asensio as well? Be interested to hear. I'm on Rashford. Really disappointing. Rashford, by the way, is the confirmed penalty taker for Aston Villa. He got subbed off, and Aston Villa get 2 penalties, which were both missed by Asensio, who is not Aston Villa's primary penalty taker. How crazy is that? The luck just keeps running out. But my theory with Rashford is that Watkins plays the second leg of the Champions League and Rashford comes back in and plays Newcastle at home. I think Man City is, to be fair, maybe a kind of Rashford game, but maybe Rashford on the left wing. I think we could see against Man City, Rashford on the left and Rodgers on the right, potentially. With Asensio in the middle? Possibly. Maybe I'm being hopeful here. But I do think that these games, the game against Man City does suit Rashford to start. Kind of trying to do some counter-attacking action. Similarly to how we saw Crystal Palace get a lot of joy on the counter-attack during the first kind of half of the game against Man City in Gameweek 32. You would say that's kind of Rashford territory, right? If Rashford plays on the left, means Asensio misses out. Not necessarily. Rashford can play up in the central striker or on the left. Asensio is more through the middle. Or on the right. Asensio's played on the right a lot. I don't really see Asensio as competing directly with Rashford for minutes. They can both certainly play pretty easily. Harley says, if you personally had to pick a Villa midfielder this week, which one would you go for? I'll say the same thing as I've pretty much said for the last couple of weeks. If I'm advising you guys on a sensible, straightforward, like, no nonsense Aston Villa midfielder, the answer is Morgan Rodgers. There's no doubt about it. Super straightforward. But if you're looking for something a little bit crazier, I think Rashford is really interesting. Really interesting. I think Asensio, people are naturally going to be disappointed in him right now. I think if you have him, he's fine to keep. But would I buy Asensio at this point? Maybe. But yeah, Rodgers is a sensible pick. And Rashford if you're feeling risky. But most people will go safe, I think. Paolo says, Savinho to De Bruyne, maybe nailed till the end of the season. Maybe being the operative word. Yeah, quick update on Savinho here. And by the way, no, I wouldn't make that transfer, to be honest. Savinho is, yeah, we saw him benched in game week 31 and then benched again in game week 32, getting a few minutes off the bench at the end of the game. We didn't know this. Apparently, he's been carrying an injury. That's the only reason he hasn't played the last 2 game weeks. So I think in a week's time against Everton and then again against Aston Villa, Savinho will be playing both of those games. And, you know, Man City really do need to turn it on right now. Let's have a look at the Premier League table. And remember, guys, we're top 5. We're top 5 for Champions League football. It is hanging on a knife edge for Man City. Chelsea 1 point behind, Aston Villa 1 point behind. It is so tight between these 3 teams for that final Champions League place. I mean, to be fair, even Forest and Newcastle could potentially drop out of this top 5. So that we've got all of these teams competing for the top, I guess 4 positions in the top 6, and 2 of them are going to miss out, and we don't know which 2. And it could very easily be Man City. For a moment there in game week 32, first half, Crystal Palace 2-0 up. It looked like Man City could be dropping out, but they just managed to hold on by full strength for the rest of the season. That means playing their best players. That means playing the likes of probably De Bruyne, to be fair. It means playing Savinho and Marmoush. Foden is tricky right now because he's clearly not in the best moment of his career. So I wouldn't do Savinho to De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne is more of a pick for those on a free hit, because you get the idea that, particularly if you're also looking for some Man City players who could potentially play in Game Week 36, is De Bruyne a little bit too risky? Can he play this amount of games? Can De Bruyne play twice in a week? I mean, maybe. They do need him. They do need him. And, you know, since this is last season, bit of a send-off, possibly. Is Asensio still on pens? No. He is the second penalty taker after Marcus Rashford, according to Emery. So if Rashford is on the pitch, he is on penalties. The pecking order is Rashford, Asensio, and then I think he said Watkins, McGinn, and someone else. Oh, Tielemans. They're kind of also potential penalty takers depending on who's on the pitch. How likely is Asensio to play both? You could say that about any Aston Villa midfielder. You could say about anyone. Kabalash says, I have Asensio, Dan Murphy to either Rodgers or Rashford. I mean, yeah, we spoke about that already, so I don't think we need to go on about that. Yeah, Rodgers safe, Rashford risky. And Asensio is probably third pick if you're trying to buy someone new. So there we have it. Which 3 City players would you pick? It's interesting because it depends on structure. I look at Game Week 33 and actually do think this favours a clean sheet against Everton. And Aston Villa have not been conceding too many goals recently. I think they've conceded 1 goal in the last 4 Premier League games. And they've got even more clean sheets if you look at some of the other competitions. So I don't know if it is a guaranteed goal fest. I mean, maybe the style of the 2 teams might lend itself to some goals. But Gvardiol and Marmoush, without a shadow of a doubt, are the top 2 Man City players. After that, you could go for Ruben Diaz. You could go for Ederson if you want to double up on the defense. If you want to go for a midfielder, it's probably De Bruyne right now, followed by Savinho. So I think there's a clear Gvardiol and Marmoush at the top. And then after that, you've got the likes of Ruben, Ederson, Savinho, and De Bruyne. And to be honest, depending on what your team looks like right now, you're probably going to be restricted to just 1 or 2 of those picks. You know, you either have a goalkeeper you like for Game Week 33 or you don't. If you do, you're not going to get Ederson. You might have a defender to replace. Maybe you go for Ruben. Maybe you need to replace a midfielder, but you have a limited budget. Then you go for Savinho. So I think maybe your situation will dictate which third Man City player you get. But as long as you have Gvardiol and Marmoush, I think that is you've got your base level. And the third player, who knows who's going to get the most points. Ruben Diaz, Ederson, pretty low ceiling, but pretty sensible, safe picks, and cover some of those defensive spots that are hard to cover this week. You know, you're going to have 2 Arsenal, you're going to have 1 Man City minimum. Maybe you have a Crystal Palace, but they don't look great for defense. Maybe you have an Aston Villa, but again, they don't look great for defense. Man City do, Arsenal do. So defense is tricky. It is tricky. When will we know more about Game Week 36? We'll know after the Game Week 34 deadline, but before the Game Week 35 deadline. That's when we'll know. Trossard. Okay, let's talk about Arsenal. I do want to talk about Arsenal, to be fair. So, recently, Arsenal have been... Let's just bring up Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Because I would say that right now, this is Arsenal's strongest lineup. This would be the lineup that Arsenal would prefer to play each week. Raya in goal, Lewis Skelly left, Timber right, Kivior and Saliba in the centre-back positions, Erdegaard, Partey, Rice, and then Martinelli, Marino, and Saka. That's Arsenal's best 11 right now. For the double game week, that's going to begin after the second Real Madrid clash. So who are we looking at going for? Well, Saka is super obvious. I don't think he is nailed on for a huge amount of minutes necessarily, but given the fixtures, Ipswich the first fixture, there's goals in that game. Crystal Palace the second fixture, who knows how that's going to go, but they have to ship 5 goals to, was it 5 goals? Yeah, 5 goals to Man City, which is crazy. So Saka is I think, a lock for game week 33. Saliba is also a lock for me because we know he's good for minutes. Raya is also a lock. Not necessarily a lock, but like, you know these are great picks. Nothing can go wrong. Famous last words, but you think that these players are super, super sensible. Then you cut kind of some of the outside players in defense. Kivior for cheap. If you think he's going to play both games in the double game week, there are some murmurings that Calafiori could be back soon. So is Calafiori going to get some minutes over the double game week? Possibly. Timber is still carrying a bit of an injury issue. Is he going to be available? Ben White, of course, is also, maybe some rotation there. So I don't think you buy Timber. Kivior is risky, but I think given that he is so much cheaper than the other defensive assets, you could give it a go. And let's move on into midfield. Erdegaard, no, just not been the attacker of choice this season. And now Saka's back on those set pieces, on those penalties. Erdegaard is just in the bin. Partey you're not going to pick, even though he scored it in game week 32, but how often does that happen? Very, very rare. Declan Rice, free kick extraordinaire on the set pieces from the other side, the other corners, and some free kicks, of course, where he banged in 2 against Real Madrid. His first 2 free kicks he's scored in his career, by the way. And bombing on forward, it's interesting. I don't think we can say with confidence Rice is definitely going to do well, but he has it in his locker. And I think the same applies to Marino, who I do think will play one of the 2 double game week games as a striker, but I think there's a very good chance he plays the other game in midfield. And that is something we need to wait and see. If Partey has apparently picked up an injury, I don't really want to go into that one, to be honest, but if it is legit and he's out for, even a week or 2, then that maybe drops Marino into midfield. But also, we've got the likes of Trossard, who we think is still going to get some game time. Is he going to play a game in striker over the double game week, and maybe Marino dropping into midfield for the other game? I think that's a real possibility. Marino is kind of risky. Could work, but I look at these fixtures, man, and I think Arsenal they're just the team to pick from defense. Again, so unlucky for these goals they're conceding. Let's just take the last 4 games, for example. We can go a lot further back than that, but they rarely concede over 1 XG in a game. The Everton game, it was the dodgiest penalty of the season, was the only reason they conceded. They conceded for a low XG chance in Brentford, where they were defensively solid throughout the game. Against Manchester United, fair enough. Man United, did pretty well in that game. But yeah, you look for all these games. Arsenal's just look at the kind of XGC column here. Arsenal just do not concede chances at all, and they're playing Ipswich and Crystal Palace next. Ipswich away, Crystal Palace is at home. It looks pretty good for clean sheets. And when we're talking about the likes of the other defenders we'd be picking from, and the only other good defense with a double game week is Man City. So going for 2 Arsenal defenders seems to be the play to me, because there's lots more options in attack. In attack, we can pick from not just Arsenal, but Man City, who are both good in attack and defense for this week, but also Crystal Palace and Aston Villa, who don't look so good for defenders, but look better for attackers. Anyway, a couple of super chats here. Mark says Saka starts both. Captain Saka, Marmoush, or Matata. Let's circle back to captaincy. I think Saka has a chance to start both. I don't think it's guaranteed though. He is slowly getting his minutes back, and there will come a point where Saka is playing 2 games a week every week. But have we quite reached that point yet? I don't know. I don't know for sure. Polyglot says, why is Saka not starting in the Premier League? Because Arsenal are concentrating on the Champions League right now. That's the simple answer. Saka's just come back from a long-term injury, needs his minutes managing, and Champions League is the priority for Arsenal right now, and they're in it. And Champions League looks all but secure at this point. There's nothing to, and Liverpool are way away in the Premier League. There's nothing to play for Arsenal in the Premier League anymore, really. So there's a freshly back from injury player doesn't need to play in the Premier League. And that's why we do have doubts about Saka starting both. But if he does, he looks like the best captain for Game Week 33. The second option for me is probably Marmoush. So I've currently got my vice captain on Marmoush. He's definitely a consideration. He's looking really hot at the moment. Should have probably scored another 2 goals against Crystal Palace. Had 2 really big chances to score and was unable to convert either of them. We should be walking away from that Crystal Palace game with Marmoush like 13 points or something like that, really. But unfortunately not. Against Everton away, it is not the easiest fixture for an attacker. Aston Villa is better, but it's not perfect right now. So what do? Marmoush has got the minutes. He's got the minutes on his side compared to Saka for sure. He's also got the form, perhaps. I would say Marmoush is in pretty good form. Saka is playing well, don't get me wrong, but he's not. Has he played enough minutes for him to say that he is in good form? It's really tricky, isn't it? Marmoush, is he a penalty taker? Maybe. With De Bruyne back, Marmoush has lost a bit of his set piece share. Saka, though, could he be the guy? The other option mentioned was Mateta. I don't really think I would captain Mateta here. I mean, Bournemouth at home is good, don't get me wrong, but Arsenal away is probably a blank. And don't get me wrong, like there's a chance anyone can score against Arsenal. Like Arsenal don't concede many chances, but they do concede goals. And, that's what counts at the end of the day. Is Mateta going to be the guy to score the 1 low XG chance against Arsenal in Game Week 33? Maybe, but I don't think we'd be expecting it to happen. Bournemouth is nicer. But again, does this fixture maybe favour a counter-attacking play? Is Bournemouth at home more of a Sarr fixture? Very possibly indeed. I don't think Mateta is in the captain conversation. I think for me, it's between Saka and Marmoush. And I would maybe even put Salah ahead of Mateta, just because that Leicester fixture is so good right now. It really is. I know they scored 2 goals against Brighton, right at the worst time for Brighton bench boosters, I know. Crazy bad luck. But it is Salah. It is Leicester. And sometimes things are no more complicated than that. But Saka and Marmoush, it's a case of what you think of Saka's minutes. If you think Saka's going to start both games, and I'm on the fence on this one, I can't decide. Maybe we need to figure out what's going on at Real Madrid first of all. If Arsenal go 2 goals up somehow at the Bernabeu, and Saka, gets subbed at 50 minutes or something, then maybe that looks good for his Premier League minutes. But if it's like a super difficult game, Saka is forced to play 90 against Madrid, it's going to be tough. But that said, Saka off the bench has been getting chances. 3 sub appearances in 3 game weeks. And during that time, he's got, what's that? Quick maths here. 1.13 XG and 0.35 XA in 3 sub appearances. It's not bad. Even from the bench, that's not bad. And, you know, if he comes on for 30 minutes at the end of the game, and during that 30 minutes, you know, there's a corner that Saka takes, or there's a penalty that Saka steps up and converts, or there's a counter-attack at the end of the game as Saka's running down the wing and, you know, doing his business. There's a lot of ways in which Saka can score FPL points, even off the bench, because he is Arsenal's best player. Certainly in attack, he is Arsenal's best player, and he can produce moments of magic, even in reduced minutes. And it's not like he's going to play 0 minutes in either of these games. I wouldn't even say he's likely to play like 5 or 10 minutes. I think if he's going to get 20 minutes minimum, even if he is benched, and it's probably going to be more. Probably going to be more than that. Anyway, that's a little bit on Saka. A couple more super chats here. Vizzo says, Raya, Pope, Gavardio concert. This is the whole team that he's told me here. Playing bench boost next week. Recommend 2 transfers. Murphy to Rodgers. And I think Alanga's going to be available for this week. And he's against Spurs, right? Am I right there? Forest against Spurs. It's a nice fixture right now for Elanga, a really nice fixture. So really, I just think I would spend 1 transfer. You are missing an Arsenal. You only have you have 2 Arsenal. You have 3 Arsenal. Yeah, I don't think there's any need to go crazy on the transfers there. 1 transfer, Murphy to Rodgers, done. Looks good. Here for FPL says, Foden, Gabriel, Murphy, Livramento. Would you rather A, Saliba, Bradley, Rodgers, Rashford, or B, Kivior, Bradley, Rodgers, KDB? I like the first option. I like A more. A seems more sensible, I think. B has maybe more upside. Does it? Saliba, by the way. If Arsenal kept a clean sheet, Saliba was 3 bonus points right there. Which I think was the same in the game before. His BPS numbers right now are crazy. Like, look at this. 16 BPS against Brentford, 16 BPS against Everton. A clean sheet, and that's enough to... That's what's going to be like 30 BPS, usually enough to get you bonus points in both of the last 2 games. So he's doing really well for bonus at the moment. Really well. Could be nice. Am I concerned about my Newcastle selections? Not really. It's done now. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. With the benefit of hindsight, yeah, obviously Livramento and Murphy would have been great, but no, there's nothing I can do now. And they're going. They're going. They're out the window for game week 30. Well, at least Trippier is out the window for game week 33 anyway. KDB differential pick. Yeah, probably the best differential. Steve really doesn't like Saka as a pick in the chat. How is it even real double for Saka if he plays 60 minutes over both fixtures? He's not going to play 60 minutes over both fixtures. He starts minimum 1. So he's probably like 80 minutes and 30 minutes, realistically. That is more than someone nailed for 90. And he is a fantastic player. And he plays Ipswich as one of the 2 fixtures. Based on what? What do you mean? Okay, Steve, you're not like it. If you don't like Saka, don't pick him. But he is Arsenal's best player. Before his injury, he played like 500 games in a row for Arsenal. He's not suddenly a bench player just because he has been injured recently. We are getting back. He is building his minutes. We're seeing that time and time again. He needs to continue to build his play time. He is going to start in the Premier League. And if you don't believe me, you do you, mate. You do you. The priority is Champions League. Arsenal after Real Madrid, they're going to play another Champions League game for 2 weeks. You think Saka is just going to go on holiday for 2 weeks and then they'll will him back out for the Champions League? Come on, man. I'm not continuing this conversation anymore. What a ridiculous... If you don't like Saka, sell him. Goodbye, Saka. We'll all enjoy his points. You don't have to. No one's forcing you. Crazy. He's getting more than 90 minutes in game week 33. And if he doesn't, I will eat my hat. Where is my hat? Here it is. This is on the menu. Next stream, if I'm wrong. Well, I don't want to lock that in until after the Real Madrid game. If he plays 90 against Real Madrid, then maybe he might dip below 90 minutes. But like, I'm talking still like 80 minimum. In the worst case scenario, he plays 80 minutes. I take 80 minutes for Saka, for sure. Oh dear. Cheap City mid, Savinho. Savinho, lock it in. Dumb. Right, so yeah, let's get a poem. We're talking captains here. You guys are gonna have some different opinions. So, who is your Game Week 33 captain currently? Because I totally understand that, you know, as the week goes on, we might be open to some changes. What I've got Saka Marmoush here. Not sure who the third option should be. Prediction. Let's go on the predicted points for Game Week 33. That's not what I'm after. Here. No. Player points predictions. What are Hub saying? Will you take a hit to bring in a double Game Week player or nah? Probably not. Unless it's like someone really, really high upside like Marmoush or Saka. Probably not. Maybe Rodgers, depending on who you're selling. Definitely not for a defender. So he's saying Marmoush, Martinelli, Mateta. Is that saying Mateta for the third option, to be fair? And someone did mention Mateta as a captain earlier. All right, let's throw him in. Right, so early poll, guys. Let's see what you're saying. Who is your Game Week 33 captain? Is it going to be? Is it going to be Saka, Marmoush, Mateta, or someone else? Let's see what you're saying. Let's see what you're saying. Right. Shall we round off today's stream with having a look at the price changes coming up and saying how many people are captaining Marmoush? Pretty high, isn't it? Marmoush seems like the safe captain right now. It has to be said. Saka is just risky for minutes. He is risky for minutes compared to someone like Marmoush. Maybe not compared to single game week players, but you know, we strongly think that Marmoush is going to get more minutes than Saka this week. It's just a case of Saka has better fixtures, has the higher upside, is the penalty taker, is a set piece taker, is gets a point for clean sheets, gets an extra point for goals. There are some genuine advantages to Saka that Marmoush doesn't have, but Marmoush has the minutes. And sometimes it's as simple as that. Right. Price changes. Alisson's going up. Is he? Right, fair enough. Alisson's price is going up. I don't know how that's happened. I thought everyone was selling him a minute ago. How on earth has that happened? Are we sure that's correct? He dropped down to 5.5 last week. He scores 3 points and now he's going back up. I guess it's just like the Leicester factor, right? Everyone's just going crazy. Crazy for Leicester. I guess the 13%, by the way, guys, are Salah captainers. There will be Salah captainers. So we've got Alisson going up tomorrow. Virgil, Saka, Aït-Nouri, and Rodgers. People on the Aït-Nouri single game week hype. So these players we think are going to go up tomorrow. Then going down, we've got Emerson, Gakpo, Palmer, and Son are going to go down. Marmoush and Saliba should also go up this week, with Calvert-Lewin, Foden, Raul, and Burma, Aina, and Szoboszlai also going down within the week. The rest of the players, we'll have to wait and see. I think people will stop buying Barnes when they realise that, you know, he's not going to have a double game week in 33. Watkins could go up, maybe. I wonder about that. Raya, maybe. Gavardio and De Bruyne are interesting as well. But there we have it. I'm not against captaining Salah. I'm really not against it. Cavalas says, will Martinelli play both games in the double game week? I don't think it's a guarantee, no. I don't think it's a guarantee. It's a chance. If you want to take that risk. But I think if I'm going for a midfielder outside of Saka, I think I'd rather take a punt on Merino than Martinelli. Similar price-ish. Vizzo says, does Pope to Edison make sense? Yeah, I think it does. I think it makes sense. For free, yeah. Like grabbing a City or an Arsenal defender using a transfer makes sense to me. Crystal Palace or Aston Villa defender for a transfer doesn't make as much sense, I don't think. Can we have a look at City defense briefly? Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of very briefly covered it. I think the consensus is that Gvardiol looks good, and Edison and Ruben would probably be the other bigger options. There is question marks still around Kusanov, isn't there? Some people bought him in. I need to see more. I need to learn more, but I don't think we're going to get information about Kusanov. It's a bit of a frustrating one. Edison injured. Oh yeah, Edison got injured. Yeah, okay. Well, if depending on his availability, so it could be Ortega, right? So yeah, if Edison's available, him. If not, Ortega. If it's unclear, then you probably avoid both, right? So yeah, that would bring us back to Gvardiol and yeah, Ruben. So yeah, maybe the Edison move doesn't make sense. We need more information. This is the problem with these super early streams. More information to come, but it's still worth thinking about and looking at the potential options. I'm hoping most of you guys are not going to lock in transfers quite yet, as there is Champions League games to play, other European games to be played. The final game, well, 2 more games actually in Game Week 32 are still to be played because we've got Bournemouth as well to play. Early transfers are not the one, but we can have a good idea of what we kind of think our potential plans, right? So then we have it. Kusanov says, if you look at his minutes before, he missed 2 due to wedding. He played every game for a bit. Is that why Kusanov didn't play? Is that why he wasn't playing? No, he got married 3 weeks ago. So why didn't he play the last 2 games? Why was he out of the squad? Because Kusanov has been... He was on the bench yesterday. He wasn't even in the squad the weeks before that. How long does his wedding go on for? I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. Kusanov is not... It doesn't look good because he was on the bench. And Man City just put up like the best performance after the 2 Crystal Palace goals. That's the best City performance I've seen in the Premier League in a long, long time. So is anything going to change? You've got all these young guys playing really well at the moment. Gvardiol and Ruben are the centre-back pairing right now. Is Kusanov guaranteed minutes? Definitely not guaranteed. Could he play 1 game? Maybe. Maybe. He hasn't missed 10 days. He's missed 3 weeks. He's missed 3 weeks of football now, if you include the sub being on the bench last game week, which is not a good sign. If he was nailed on starter, if he's available, he plays, and he presumably was available against Palace and didn't play. I would consider moving Kusanov to like Gvardiol or Ruben if I had a spare transfer going. It is a little bit dodgy. He's a bit dodgy now, surely. I'd be interested to hear like some other Kusanov owners what they're thinking right now. Because 3 games missed is not a great sign, unless there's an issue, but we've not seen anything about an issue there. And I don't want to dwell on this one too much. Okay, let's answer a couple more questions in the chat, and then we will call it a day. Gvardiol won't be starting left back till Akanji returns in May. Well, no. If Kusanov comes back into the starting 11, then Gvardiol will go back to left back. Boss Ahil says, "Hey Dan, who would be a second attacker option from Arsenal?" I guess if I had to pick a second attacker option from Arsenal aside from Saka, it would be Marino. But I still do think I prefer the double defense. David says, surely KDB is nailed. I guess he's nailed as long as his body allows him to be nailed, which has been a problem over the last couple of years. So 2 games within the space of however many days. Is it 3? let's check the exact dates on these games here. So it's Saturday the 19th, Tuesday the 22nd. So there's 3 days. It's a little questionable. I wouldn't assume that De Bruyne is nailed. No, he has a chance to play both games. But then we've got Man City in the FA Cup as well. Is KDB gonna be required in technically at the same time of game week 34? That's going to be 3 games in 1 week. It's more likely that De Bruyne plays 1 game and not the other, so there is some risk there. And then comes back in the FA Cup where he to face Forest, I would say. Right, final questions here. Is it worth taking a -4 to have a full playing bench for bench boost? For a playing bench, yes. For a double game week bench, no. If you're taking -4s for defenders. Like, for example, if you've got like a Burn or a Livramento, something like that, -4 to move them, no. But if you've got someone like, I don't know, who have we got on screen right now? Kabore, who has been loaned to Benfica. Kabore is one of your bench defenders, and they're getting 0 minutes guaranteed. Then yes, I would take a -4 to get the extra man. Keeping Murphy instead of free transfer to Asensio a consideration in your opinion? Yes, I think it is an option. I don't think I'd go for Asensio, but if you are missing Rodgers, or maybe if you're missing the likes of Savinho and Rashford or Marino, if you want to go there, I would consider using a free transfer on Murphy to one of those guys. Is Rashford nailed on penalties? Rashford was already nailed on penalties. Rashford is the Aston Villa penalty taker whenever he's on the pitch. That's the 3rd time I've said that now, but I appreciate people coming into the stream late. And Bruno to Saka for me, probably, yep, seems pretty sensible. What are your thoughts on Liverpool defense? I like Connor Bradley, but after this week, it doesn't look too good. Aina, I need to sell. Yeah, Aina, I would sell if on a bench boost in 33. Yes. Can you please answer my question? I really don't want to spam. Okay. So I went for Pau Torres as an Aston Villa defender. Can you answer me why he's not starting? Because Aston Villa have an incredibly deep squad, and they are a team that is just a general rotation nightmare at the moment. They have so many players. They're in so many competitions. It is impossible to predict. I think Konsa is perhaps nailed from here on. I think Rodgers probably as well. But outside of that, everyone is a risk. Every single player. And with defenders, it is tough because the upside is low. You're not going to get much from the bench, even if they do come off the bench. Centre backs typically don't come off the bench anyway. Not really feeling it. Would I sell him? Probably not. I just keep him and just hope for the best. I just hope for the best. Will there be an experts video? Yes, that'll be out on Wednesday. Top defenders outside the doublers. Bear in mind 36 and 37. I mean, if we look at this calendar and we try and match defenders who both have a double in 33 and a chance of a double in 36, then you're looking at Wan-Bissaka at Southampton. You're looking, I mean, maybe a Forest defender against Spurs. The Spurs do score goals. That's pretty much it for single game week players. It's tough. It's tough. What you could do is go for Bradley, and you could have Connor Bradley for game week 33 and then bench him in game week 36 and play all of your double guys. But Liverpool face Arsenal in 36. It's not good. Game week 37. At that point, there's maybe some minutes risk with Trent. Let's find exactly when Trent is expected to be back now. Alexander-Arnold. Wait, no. Alexander-Arnold return date. Let's try and get an exact. Maybe not exact, but like a rough timeline on him, because you think he would get a decent send off at the end of the season. Like, they're not going to bench him. Bradley is good for minutes. Right. Where does it say? So when is that? When he's due? It's just saying he could be back before the end of the season. This is not useful. Right. Previous state update still to explain that Alexander-Arnold is hoping to play again this month, which is April. So if he's hoping to play again this month, where are we looking here? So he's hoping to play against Spurs. Let's be a little realistic and say maybe 35 or 36. Does Bradley become obsolete within a couple of game weeks? That is the question. And the answer is probably yes. Single game week defenders. I guess it's Wan-Bissaka. Like looking through Southampton in game week 33, small chance, but a chance nonetheless. It would require Forest to beat Man City in the FA Cup semi-final for West Ham to have a double in 36. But there is a chance nonetheless. Virgil, if people have the funds. Konate, maybe. But again, the fixtures are so poor for Liverpool after 33. Is it worth the investment for the sake of 1 week? Maybe. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it there. Thank you guys for joining me today. If there are any other questions, feel free to leave them on the replay of the stream. If you didn't watch the beginning of the stream, check it out as well. We'll be back tomorrow. I've got a free hit team, and we're going to talk a little bench boost in tomorrow's video as well, which is going to be a bit of fun. Buy, sell, keep, avoid on Tuesday, 100 experts on Wednesday, my team on Thursday, final decisions on Friday, and a deadline stream for the big double game week we've all been looking forward to on next Saturday. And then it's free hit time, baby. Game week 34 free hit. Looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. But appreciate you guys. Drop a like before you go. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoy. And I'll see you tomorrow for yet another video. Enjoy tomorrow's game if I don't catch you before then. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow for a video anyway. I'll see you then. Thanks, guys. Take care. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.